All right. Okay. And also, I don't know if we have only English speaker because today we're gonna be a mix-up of English and Arabic together. So hopefully that will do. And okay, let me start real quick telling you about product, folks. If you guys, if it's your first, let's say, event with us here today. So product, folks, it's a community started in 2016 in Jordan to serve the whole Middle East, North Africa region. So we want to create that community that helps each other in like learning and gaining insights and knowledge, and also building products from out of our region that's really, let's say, valuable and making impact in people's life, not only for our region but for the whole world. So this is what this is us. We've done a lot of like online, offline talks and workshops and events and conferences. And since 2016, here Tambi appears in one of the photos as well. Thank you for being supporter, Tambi. And so we have also our online community. We started in Facebook groups. Back then it was very, very active. Then we migrated to like WhatsApp and migrated to Slack. So we have a couple of like, right now the active communities are on Slack and WhatsApp. I'll tell you at the end the QR codes if you want to join them. I'm also happy to say that we also help both businesses and like startups as well. So if you're interested in our services, you can reach out to us. And the latest thing that we do that we are very proud of it is we did a career coaching program. It's already happening right now. We have the first cohort have started a couple of weeks ago. And we have a really great lineup of coaches who are with us. So you guys can know more about it if you're on the Slack community. And also as well, we have attended multiple Expand conference, and also we're happy, inshallah, this year I think Tambi and the team is also planning to have an Expand also this year. Maybe at the end you can tell us the dates, Tambi, or if there is anything ready. And lastly, because not to take a lot of time, this is the WhatsApp community and the LinkedIn page. And if you're interested in the Slack community, as I mentioned, this is the Slack community. If you wanna, I'm gonna give it for a 20-second. This is the Slack community if you wanna join it. And this is the WhatsApp community and the LinkedIn page. So I don't want to take a lot of time. As I said, it has been a really interesting, I don't know, we've been talking for more than a month or 2 months, maybe me and Muhammad have, for this unusual and great event. So I'll leave it to you, Muhammad, and thank you for this.
Thank you, Ibrahim. So I just wanted to thank everyone who participated in this. I really appreciate your time and effort. And thank you to all the attendees. I'll give you a bit of a background about myself. I started my career as a software engineer. Then I was more interested in why we're building things rather than just how to build it. So I migrated to product management, worked in multiple industries from fintech to e-commerce, logistics, founded my own startup in the optimization space, started with a SaaS product for the supply chain industry, exited this product, and currently focusing on Zation. So let me start by sharing my screen. Let me know if it's visible. Anyone?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So today's talk is about more than just prioritization and more than just framework. It's about identifying the pitfalls, the problems, and how to practically mitigate them. And we just need to talk first about why this is a problem. It's because we tend to have a lot of initiatives in mind and we don't have a shortage of ideas, but it's a matter of which ones we need to pick at this moment with the data that we have, and it fits our solution the best right now, because the job of the product team is to maximize the delivered value over time and take this fixed cost as a return on the investment. So that's the objective that we're trying to do. And where this becomes a problem is that poor prioritization is often costing the company in both an organization level and okay. And is my screen visible better?
Great. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So it costs on an organization level in terms of operations, where we spend a lot of time on initiatives that are either changed because they're mundane or they're not just used by the users, and we have to spend more time developing features that they actually need. On top of that, the actual process of prioritizing and deciding what to build takes a very long time. On average, it takes 6 weeks, which is a very long time from day zero of identifying the problem and what we need to work on. You lose so much in this time until you decide and actually spend time working on the problem itself. And this is where the opportunity cost comes in. You could lose a market window, something like in COVID, where people who were ready seized the opportunity, as we're going to see in a few slides. And you could tend to increase the customer frustration. This would affect your metrics, increase your churn rates, and increase your customer acquisition costs again. And this would also make you lose your competitive advantage if there's frustration with the things that the customers need versus what you're actually building. People tend to migrate to competitors, and it's very difficult to convert them back. And what we've been doing for the past decade or over is using frameworks, and they tend to help us a lot. But I believe with the evolution of technology, the newest framework that we currently use is Rice, and it's about a decade old. So technology is evolving by the month or even by weeks, and we're still using very old frameworks that need to keep up. And the problem with that is that they give us a very false sense of objectivity. And this turns into changing the problem from picking what we need to do into deciding which scores that we should give to the actual initiatives themselves, and the scoring becomes the actual target. The problem with that is that we try to be as accurate as possible, and it's either we have a lot of data and we don't know which is a vanity metric that we need to ignore and which is an important piece of information, and we tend to chase getting more data, and this causes some sort of an analysis paralysis, and you tend to try to increase your confidence thresholds when you score the items, but it's just not possible. Or on the other hand, in big organizations, there are a lot of product teams and they spend their time focusing on different initiatives, and each team prioritizes in a different way according to their department. So if I'm in an e-commerce business, for example, back office operations people, they tend to focus on the cost of delay because the operations cost us money, but it doesn't directly translate into revenue. On the other hand, customer facing side would tend to use something like Rice or shortest job first. So the results themselves, they don't really match each other, and they're not really consistent because of the difference in objectives and the frameworks used. And there's also another problem, which is a bias behind the scored numbers that we give within the frameworks themselves. And the first problem with that is that when we start the scoring process, we tend to anchor the rest of the initiatives to the first things that we estimated. So if we estimated something as high effort and then we found something else, we tend to use this as an anchor in terms of how much it's going to take. And if you screwed up the first couple of initiatives, then the entire process is just skewed. And another problem is that we tend to have a subconscious bias, and we try to confirm that with the numbers that we give. So if we believe something is important or we should spend some time on it, then we confirm this with the numbers that we actually give in the score, even without realizing this. Third problem is the recency effect of all the info that we get, especially from feedback. So we talk to stakeholders as product managers, we talk to users, and the most recent piece of info gets prioritized because it's at the back of our heads. And this is the problem. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't factor in recency. We definitely should. However, recency doesn't need to be the only factor that we consider. And the last thing is the availability, which is mostly related to the effort. So if we could imagine how much this is going to return to us, how much it's going to take to develop, then it's easier to score it in a more accurate way. However, if something is more complex, it involves more risk, then it's more difficult to give it an objective score. So let's dissect some frameworks. Does everybody know the frameworks, or would you like me to give a quick overview of what they are?
Maybe a quick one, يعني, if you want to.
Okay. Okay. So the first one is RICE, which is one of the most popular frameworks. It translates to reach, impact, confidence, effort. So we give certain scores to how many people this feature is going to reach, how much of a percentage from the user base, for example, the impact it has, whether it's high, medium, low, in terms of changing user behavior, in terms of increasing or decreasing, increasing revenue or decreasing costs, the confidence threshold that we have about this data, and the effort it's going to take in terms of, let's say, man days or hours to develop this feature. And the problem with that is that, again, this impact masks the subjective judgment because we don't have anything to back this with. It's just an estimate. And the problem, again, with confidence is just more guessing about an estimate. So we estimate our estimates. This doesn't mean that the RICE framework is terrible. It's best used for some cases when you have a lot of data and the effort estimates are within reason. It doesn't involve a lot of uncertainty. It doesn't involve something like R&D, for example. So it could be used for such a use case. And when there are some initiatives that are very close to each other in terms of priority, and we need more of a quantitative ranking. Second framework is Moscow, which is categorizing the initiatives into what should be done, what must be done, and what we won't be doing. And there are two problems with this, is that if we don't really know if this should or shouldn't be done, it tends to be in a catch-all category, which is the should. And when there are conflicting priorities between departments, everything becomes a priority. So it either lands in the must or should categories. And within each category, there's no real differentiation between the things that landed there. So if we landed with 5 to 6 items in one category, let's say the must, we don't really have anything to prioritize within this category. However, it's best used if we want something that is stakeholder friendly. It's not involving complex scoring or numbers, and it's very, very quick getting a vote on what should land in which category. Last one is the weighted shortest job first, and it factors in two things, which is the cost of delay, how much this is going to cost us in terms of actual direct costs or missed opportunities like lost revenue, for example, and the actual job size. And this tends to favor quick wins and short-term tactical wins rather than long-term added value. And if we have certain time-sensitive initiatives that we need to favor and factor in the cost of delay and the job size, this could be used. However, if we want to focus on more strategic initiatives that take longer time, then this is not the framework to use. So we will introduce some problems that we need to avoid in prioritization. And the first one is the recency bias that we just discussed. The second one, which is very important, which is the sunk cost fallacy. When we get so invested in a certain project that we already spent a lot of time on and a lot of resources, and we don't know when to tank or stop this investment and it's not working. We tend to think that since we already invested this much time, we're not going to throw it away, but it's best to make this decision now than spend more time on it. Third thing is the stakeholder politics and how the highest paid person's opinion would influence what you work on. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't factor in the stakeholder politics. It means that you should be aware when this is possible to influence your ranking of the initiatives that you work on. The fourth one, which is the false precision that we also mentioned with the scoring. And next would come the complexity blindness, is that most of the frameworks that we mentioned, they don't factor in the dependency between certain projects. So if something would unlock or block certain features, it's not factored in the scoring process itself. It treats every single feature as a solo independent entity, and that's a major problem. Next, we also have the misaligned incentives where different teams optimize for different things. So like we said, commercial teams, they're more focused on revenue, sales. Sales teams tend to focus on increasing acquisition at all costs, while on the other hand, operations, for example, we have a very different way of optimizing, lowering costs, trying to be more efficient. Last thing is the strategic disconnect. So most initiatives that we don't know how to tie to our strategic goals and the core user needs means that this is not an actual high priority, and we're just chasing a shiny feature that has no connection to our actual plan. So as mentioned, the dependencies, they unlock certain features, and this is a real case study with one of the clients that we had, is that they focused on a seemingly low priority initiative, which was investing in their KYC process, which is how to identify to verify the identity of their customers. But this enabled them to expand to more than one territory, increase their product lines, because this feature was the foundation and the infrastructure for more products and more initiatives that came along with it. So it's not just about the direct impact at the moment of said feature. It's more about what it could enable you to do in the future as well. There's also technical debt, and the problem that engineering teams face with product teams is that we don't know at which point to factor in the legacy code that needs to be refactored, the infrastructure that needs to be refined, versus adding more features that the users actually need. And if we think about this in an objective way, that it's an economic thing rather than just a technical thing, we translate this in terms of cost as well. And if we look at this chart, we see that there's a fixed cost to maintain the code. At first, we start quick and dirty with something that would eventually be more harmful than doing us good. So at the point of intersection here, this is when you need to factor in the technical debt. At first, you write some sloppy code as a mitigation or a workaround, and that's fine for a while. But once the cost of maintaining this code is more than your actual fixed cost and it starts compounding, then you need to factor it in as a priority. And there are signals for that. You start to see more bugs than usual. You start to see the deployment failures. Developers, they tend to leave in short amount of time. And it takes a longer time to build simple features that used to take a couple of days. Another thing is that we have a lot of data. Even small startups have tons of data at the moment, and you get exposed to different requests, and you need to peel the onion in order to figure out the underlying problems, not just take things as is. And I use a quote here from Henry Ford. It's that if I asked people what they wanted, they would have asked for faster horses. And this was how he dissected the problem. It's that they need better transportation, not just the horse. So the way I do this is something called the 5 whys approach. So let's take this example of someone requesting a dashboard for. So we start asking ourselves, why do they need this? To see the campaigns that performed well. Again, we ask, why is this important? Why do they need to see it? To allocate the budget effectively. Again, why are they not allocating the budget correctly at the moment? And we see that it's because they're not sure which channels drive better quality leads and more qualified leads. And why is that? Because the attribution model itself is not connected to the CRM. And why is that? Because there are multiple systems that are distributed, whether they're microservices or solo systems. And this means that the actual problem is to fix the data pipeline and enrich the customers with more data so that they have better visibility rather than just focusing on building an entirely new dashboard. So the way to do this is to capture the literal request. You ask the 5 whys until you get to the underlying problem. And a framework I like to use here is the jobs to be done. What are they trying to achieve? The user that's asking for this request. And we reframe that as a problem statement. Another problem with the data overload is that with the tons of data that we have, we tend to build a lot of dashboards. And the problem with dashboards is that they're not coupled with actions. There's a disconnect between what we should do when certain thresholds are met. So let's say we track the active users, we track the retention, the engagement. Let's say it starts to increase or decrease. We don't know what action is coupled with that. So let's say if the active users drop by 10%, what am I supposed to do? So we need to have actions in place when certain thresholds are met so that we're able to prioritize in a quick way. And the way to do this is to identify the strategic goals and the North Star metric and a couple of leading indicators for it, then establish the actions that would be coupled with these indicators reaching certain thresholds. As we've talked about stakeholder politics, we need to understand what level of influence this person has in terms of the entire company, identify the interaction frequency with them, how aligned they are with us, and what value do they bring to the table. So you get to deal with design teams, you get to deal with engineering teams, executives, and commercial teams, marketing, sales, operations, everything. So you need to understand first when there would be an influence from a certain stakeholder. It's when they have competing priorities and we have a limited set of resources to work on these initiatives in a timely manner. Or if there's a specific strategic pivot, we're shifting from a direction to another one, and we need to focus on one direction only. And this is where the influence of stakeholder would come in. And the way to do this is to identify each person's role in the process early on. So for this, I use something called the Rossi matrix: who's responsible, who's accountable, who's consulted, and who's informed. And what this helps with is, along with the stakeholder influence framework, the data here, it helps you figure out what kind of person you're going to be listening to more. And on top of that, you have to align on the evaluation criteria even before you start any meeting to prioritize the initiatives that you're going to work on. So that everything is clear from the beginning and everyone is aligned on how we're even prioritized. And within the process itself, there's definitely going to be multiple opposing opinions. And in order to do the trade-offs, let's say, for example, the sales team wants to prioritize features built for them over operations. And what we do is we tend to do explicit value exchange. If we prioritize this for the sales team, then we're going to need to have higher targets, for example, that we're aiming for, and thus justify the investment of the engineers towards this initiative. And that's basically it. In order to get all the stakeholders aligned on the plan itself, it's very important. Even if you disagree and commit, it's still a good plan because everyone understands what they're doing and why they're invested in this. And this brings us to the alignment architecture. When we identify the clear criteria from the beginning, it means that we understand why decisions were made. It doesn't necessarily need to mean that we agree with them, but we understand why they're made. And that's the entire concept of alignment. And we have a shared language of what the value represents so that the process itself is way smoother. And the explicit trade-offs that we do are understood and documented for everyone. Something else is the core user needs that we tend to drift away from and chase the shiny features that I've mentioned, is because we get to be influenced by what other competitors are building, or what users are asking for, or what stakeholders are influencing, and we tend to deviate from what the users actually need. So we need to always take a step back and focus on the core workflows that drive the biggest impact, why the users are coming to this company or using this system, and focus on improving these, and then extending towards more features. But if we have problems with our core workflows, then any other feature wouldn't matter, because the users won't be able to do the major operations that they intend to do within this system. The strategic overview of why we're doing things is very important, because each initiative needs to be mapped to one of these objectives. And the way to do this is to have strategic buckets and divide our objectives into percentages of resources that would be assigned to this objective. Or you could do it in another way, is to split this, instead of 3 horizons here for the strategic overview, it would be more for what kind of work they'd be doing, which is, let's say, focusing on the core workflows versus new bets, and doing some maintenance for legacy code and technical debt, for example. This would enable us to prioritize within this percentage of resource alignment. So when we decide to work on something from day zero, we start to analyze a lot of data points, as mentioned. We have stakeholder meetings and debates, alignments, until we reach the decision. And on average, this takes from 4 to 7 weeks. And this shows us how much of the opportunity we're losing if we didn't react much earlier. So the criticality of prioritization isn't just about which items that we pick, it's about the decision time that we take from day zero of identifying what we need to work on until we actually start working on it. And there's always the thing called prioritization art, and I like to think of it as a mix of both data and art. So there's always a sense of intuition and gut feeling in the process, but we need to know when is it suitable to be factored in. And similar to the example I just gave for Zoom, when they had a certain market window and they pivoted everyone into online meetings. So this was more of an intuition. 0 to 1 bets when Figma, for example, shifted everyone from using Adobe into working online and on browsers to design their products. Something like Superhuman, if you're familiar with them, is an email app, and it shifted everyone to work more with keyboard shortcuts rather than just using traditional email apps. Something similar to this would be how Apple pioneered using the AirPods, and they removed the headphone jack right before everyone. Or if it's a strategic pivot from focusing on a specific customer profile to another, like what Discord did, switching from gaming into more of communities for everyone. So if you're prioritizing for something that is like a bet or something that requires more imagination, then you would need intuition. But if you're optimizing for something that is already known and is precedented, then frameworks are the way to go. So the evolution of the prioritization process was starting from a manual ad hoc decisions. Whenever someone came to you, you just mentally prioritize. Then people came up with frameworks. It was more of a structured approach. Right now, there's more layering of multiple frameworks. There's analytics tools. And I believe the fourth step would be augmenting the decision process with AI. People are currently trying to adopt this, and there are so many ways to leverage AI in the prioritization process. But let's identify that this is not a framework challenge, but again, it's more of how quickly and accurately you can process this complex information in order to be able to make a decision. And how we did this was building Zation. We synthesize all of your data points from strategic goals, core user needs, whether that internal stakeholders or different user segments. We gather all of the feedback, process it, filtering out all the noise. We run multiple scenarios from different perspectives, from a business side, from a technical side, and then we give you an unbiased evaluation of your entire data set and prioritize the items accordingly. We provide also detailed justification of why things were made, what trade-offs were done, and why they were done, in order to get the buy-in of stakeholders in an easier and more smooth way. Back over to Ibrahim.
All right. Amazing. Thank you, Muhammad. I think you covered a lot. Yani, thank you a lot for this. I would love to, I don't know, if we have any question, you guys can raise your hand. You can leave it in the comments, in the QA section, whatever you feel. Any comments, any feedback, any concern, any even like, I don't know, if you do not agree with something, I'd love to hear your opinion.
Yes.
And for sure, we will share with you. I think it's already an open link, right? And we can share with you the presentation. But you guys can see it. It's this is how you know that Muhammad is a software engineer. And he didn't put it on like a drive. No, he put it on a URL, so you can check it from the URL directly. I don't know if you guys don't have any question or any. Then I don't know. And either you don't agree with Muhammad or you agree 100%. There's something off. Yeah. Any question or any? Okay, Nisma.
Hi everyone. First of all, thank you for the presentation. It's one of the lesson ones happened before safety coverage. I love it. And my feedback is to tell you.
I love it. Cutting. مش مسمع كويس. We're not hearing you very well.
Okay. Is it better now?
يعني جربي. Let's try. Let's see.
Yeah. Okay. Is it better now?
Yes.
Not so much.
Yeah, let's try.
Okay. I think it's better now.
Okay. Go ahead, Nisma.
Just let me repeat, and I think you will hear me now.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. I'm just going to repeat what I have said before. It's one of the later presentations I have attended in the past time that has a kind of 360 coverage for the topic. It's amazing, by the way. Thank you for that. I liked every aspect you have presented. I liked the way you presented it, and I think it's one of the best ones. One of the things that may have impacted my prioritization before is the resources scarcity. It's somehow regarding the features related to the machine learning engineers and the research related. It's a kind of technical debt, I know, but it's somehow corrupting the prioritization we already have made. I'm not sure, is it a kind of risk factors that we add, a kind of different weight for things like that? I'd like to hear from you in this regard.
Okay. Can you share more about the context? What's the company? What does it do?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Mainly, I'm working in services part. We already deliver projects, but at the beginning, we set the scope, the priorities, and things like that. One of the features was something related to the search. It was a kind of semantic search or image search. It was AI powered, okay? And during the execution, the accuracy part had messed up everything, and the technical data became, as you know, in the AI part, it's kind of research. Then it may ruin all of your priorities. I'm not sure how to deal with such things.
So it depends if this is your core product or if it's supporting another product. Something that could be beneficial for this is the feature buckets or the horizon buckets. Like I said, using these buckets to predetermine how much of your resources you're investing in this. So if I'm assigning to this specific part, let's say 30% of resources, then I know I'll only assign, let's say 3 out of 10 engineers working full-time on this. Another aspect is that R&D is a never-ending process. You're going to keep enhancing the algorithm eventually every single day. So it doesn't end. And if it depends on whether, again, this is part of your core workflow, it's affecting your metrics or not. And you need to change how much of your resources you're assigning to this. If this is affecting way more than the metrics that you've predicted, then it's time to increase the percentage of this bucket.
Yeah, okay. And what about the kind of problem related to the resources scarcity? If sometimes you may have allocated resources, okay, but at some time for the problem domain, you may need a different kind of resources with different experience and things like that.
We need to be pragmatic about it. We do
Yeah.
so much with the few things that we have at the moment, and that's what makes a good product manager. Is you identify the problem, you raise it to start hiring new people, but you have to work with what you have at the moment.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Nasma, for your question.
Thank you.
I think Abul Hassan.
Yeah, yeah. Hi, Mohammed. Hi, Ibrahim. Yeah, thanks a lot for the great insights and the presentation. My question was related to the uh, slide that you mentioned about the stakeholders matrix, where you mentioned about the RAC. I think like you have to map the stakeholders and how much impact each stakeholder has on the business. So currently, I'm in a large supply chain transformation program for one of the leading retailers in the UK. So currently, the problem which I'm facing, like I'm part of the product team, the current problem which I'm encountering is that the product, the senior product managers and the senior business executives, they are pushing too much in the for the product discovery phase. Like there are a lot of supply chain functions, so they want to like decommission them and like they want to build strategic new features. So the engineering team is working on one release and there are multiple product discovery functions going on for multiple releases, so we are unable to handle the basically the overloading feature request. So we being a part of a team which where we do not have much influence to the stakeholders, so how can we like practically handle this situation and convey it to the senior stakes basically? I don't know whether
Okay,
you
so
got the part.
let me reframe what you just said to make sure I understood correctly.
Yeah,
So the problem is that you're getting pushed to work more on the discovery process, and that's not a bad thing, by the way. That's actually a good thing.
yeah,
The
yeah,
thing is that you have to split your efforts evenly to identify what things you need to be working on. You wouldn't invest discovery in one direction and ignore the rest, and this will cause some sort of bias. So being more in discovery is not a bad thing. It's, again, you have to decide when you need to cut it off and make a decision, because you're always going to be hungry for more data. You just have to figure out when it's enough to make a decision with the data that you have at the moment, even if it involves some sort of risk or uncertainty. But that's how you learn. If you're not building something new, then you're not taking feedback directly from user behavior and from engagement. And the way to do this, how to handle stakeholders, is to effectively prioritize with what you have at the moment and present it to them in a detailed way, why you're picking this or why you're betting on this. And you could incrementally increase the effort you spend on the discovery based on the confidence threshold. So if I spend this much time and I get this certain result, it starts to a certain metric threshold, then I'm going to invest more to learn about this space. And if it's not validated from this hypothesis, then I'm going in a certain other direction.
yeah,
Does it make
got it.
sense to
But
you now?
yeah, it makes sense. But like since you are a part of a very large organization which has a very linear corporate hierarchical structure, so as a product manager, how can I basically influence him, like that RSCI metrics that you had plotted? But when it comes to practicality, like our voices don't reach much to the management, like they pursue what they have, like they receive from their higher ups, but it causes a lot of chaos in product prioritization, and the engineering team also suffers because they're dealing with constant issues in the current release, and now they are bombarded with new development, but the core product that you're building itself is not in a good stable state, right? So how
This
can
is when
we
you
like
need to actually manage your manager and your stakeholders. You need to work your way up. If you convince your manager directly and enable him with the analysis that you've did, then it could work its way up till someone who has influence would be able to do so. You could be proactive about it if it's possible to arrange a certain meeting with the stakeholders that would have influence in this, agree with them on the criteria like we discussed, and move forward with a decision.
okay, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Who
Okay.
has a great question? Okay, so I have a question from Abdullah on the chat. He's asking, you gave a great example about the KYC investment that unlocked further growth. How can product team better identify these foundational enabler feature that may not show immediate impact but are critical for strategic scalability?
Mhm. So again, this all ties back to the strategic goals. If I'm planning to expand in, let's say I'm based in the US and I'm planning to expand to the Middle East, I know that the Middle East uses Arabic and it supports right to left text. So this is something that I need to be doing. I need to localize my app. So investing in localization would enable us to expand to this. So think about it in terms of ripple effect. Am I planning to increase my product line? Am I planning to expand in new territories? What is the logical evolution of my product? And this would enable you to factor that in the prioritization.
If there's a follow-up or like related, he's asking like in financial institution, there's a lot of like regulatory, let's say, requirements or compliance or budget constraint. How much do these financial reality influence or override these prioritization framework? How can you adapt to
I've worked in banking, so yeah, they tend to influence a lot because you tend to pay penalties if you don't follow them, hefty penalties. So yeah, if there's a penalty involved, then definitely it gets prioritized no matter what. If it's affecting something like an expansion, if I'm expanding to Europe and I need to account for GDPR, it would affect my timeline to expand, but it wouldn't affect my financials in terms of direct cash flow effect. So that's the way to think about it.
Wala, did you have a question? I think you raised. Thank you, Abdullah, for your question. Did you have any question? Maybe it could be the last question that we can take.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim. Thank you so much, Muhammad. You just answered my
Okay.
question, but I have another one. It is about change management because you just mentioned something related to convincing others with your opinion or something like that. I actually suffer in this with this part actually. So can you give us some tips in implementing like lean management strategies in our organizations, for example? How could I apply like the change management?
So when you
Like some
start prioritizing something, you tend to have KPIs
mm-hmm,
that indicate the success or failure of such initiatives. And this is when I mentioned coupling this with actions. So if we set certain thresholds and beyond those thresholds, if we don't meet them, then we need to pivot. It would be very clear to everyone from the beginning. It's like having a plan B. So you don't have to actually debate with people. The plan B is already set. And plan B doesn't have to be something that you would work on. Plan B could be doing more discovery towards a certain direction.
mm-hmm. And you just mentioned also the 360 degrees. So how can I implement every single thing, or how can I, let's say, include every single thing in like a session? Or يعني, it's not easy actually. This is what I'm
It's
thinking
not.
about. Yeah, yeah.
The product manager's job
I'm
is
so
very hard.
interested in this.
It's not about doing everything. You're
Okay.
always going to miss some things. You're not going to do everything right. It's about learning from your mistakes and picking, even as a product manager, what to do and what to focus on. And you have to know why you're not doing these things. So I know I have to do 10 things. I know I won't be able to do all of them. I'm picking the top 3 and I'm moving with it and learning from this action.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Wala. And thank you, Muhammad. It was really a great presentation. I'm really excited for this part now, where we start with the use case. And I'll give a mic in a bit for Muhammad. He will give also for you guys to understand the use case. But we have been working for quite some time right now, as we mentioned, with Mahmoud and Wasfi. And they're going to present to us and to the judges what they have been working on. So the idea that we wanted to look at, it's not like a comparison on who's better, but we're trying to see how much time is spent, right, between human versus AI, or how AI can help you, let's say, better use your time. And also, let's say there's a rationale at the end. There's going to be like a priority list of initiative. So we want to see which story makes sense more, let's say. We know that it depends also on the PM itself or the volunteer. There's definitely that. But yeah, we try to, we have the both PMs are in, let's say, they're like a lead position. They have great experience, and we hope, let's see, everyone has a different way of handling things, but we will see it, inshallah, together right now. Mohammed, if you want to shed light, if you want, what actually use case we gave for the guys, and then we will give Ahmed Hammouri the first 10 minutes to present his work. You are muted, Mohammed. Be careful.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so thank you, Ibrahim. The overview is that this is a fitness company. It's in the wellness sector, and it focuses mainly on getting the data from wearable devices and integrating that into personalized workout plans and growing its community feature set. So there's some sort of community aspect to it. And it's currently based in the US market. It has less than 1% of market share, but it has growing active users. It's currently reached 150,000 active users. It's in its Series A growth, and it competes with the likes of Nike Training Club, MyFitnessPal, Strava, Peloton, Fitbod, and they have 4 major goals, which is to double the active users, expand to Europe, achieve $12 million in annual revenue. Right now, they don't have any monetization in the app whatsoever, and to increase the user retention and reduce their churn. We gave them a couple of personas for the internal stakeholders that are involved in the team, different user segments and their distribution, some feedback and some initiatives to prioritize. Right now, they have 2 engineering squads. Each squad involves a manager, 3 backend engineers, 1 cross-platform mobile engineer, and there's an additional front-end and DevOps and quality assurance engineers. I'll give over the mic to Mahmoud Hammouri, who will start representing the human part, which is the most complex part, to be honest. So thank you, Hammouri, for doing that.
No, anytime. Relax. It was fun. Thank you for inviting me. I'm actually excited for this. And I'll probably walk you through my thought process more than a specific framework. How would I think of such cases? Before you read any of that, the main job of a product manager is to bring focus to the organization. The way I like to even think of a product manager is in a very similar way to as an investor. As an investor, you have resources and you want to allocate them in the right place that can bring you the highest ROI. This is basically like the simplest definition of or analogy of a product manager. And when I think about that, again, like the whole point is to bring focus. One of the key pillars of focus is to think of the company strategy and positioning. This alone, like the company strategy and positioning, almost automatically filters out and prioritizes 50% of the product work. So before I even look at the product features, and this is first and second and third, I don't really care about that. And I don't even care about like what the stakeholders want and so on. I care what is the company strategy, where it's positioning, and where it's really its strengths in the market. So here, and this is probably a simplified version of the 10-page case to help you walk you through my thought process. So let's start with the goal. Here are the goals, exactly as Muhammad said. Double MAU, expand to Europe, achieve, of course, profitability or revenue. They don't have any revenue by now, and retention. The second thing I would look at is the differentiator. Where is this company really, shining in the market? So as we see here, there are three main pillars. And again, this is the main prioritization framework that I follow. What are the company's differentiators? First is the reliable wearable integration, personalized workout plans, and the growing feature set. Okay, so let those sink in, because this is probably 50% of the prioritization that I did. The third part is the segment, and this is where the confusion starts to come into place. And this is where the main job of the product manager comes into action. In the case, they mentioned that we have about 9 different segments. And if anyone looks at it, it will be, it will confuse them and take them forever to really think about it. But the main focus really is to pinpoint which one is the most important segment. How do we know which is the important segment? By reflecting on our differentiator and market positioning and the company strategy. So out of all the segments that we have right here, the only segment that really resonates the most is the power user, which are, want to track meticulously with wearables, analytics, and so on. Everyone else is distraction. The more we focus on them, the more distracted with it. And what you will see also here is that even like the 10% of the power user is really, relatively the minority out of all the segments. So if you really want to focus on, this means that there is a strong trade-off that has to happen, focusing on the 10% at the cost of the remaining 90. Cool? From here, this is literally this. Those 3 more per step are the most important parts. The second step is, out of all the product features, this now will automatically filters it out. And you will notice that I don't really use any framework, to be honest. I just, mark things as P0, P1, and P2. And what you will notice also is that in the page, there were 27, feature, requirements or initiatives that are required. 14 of them are removed entirely. I don't even place them at the bottom. We're not going to do with them later. I'm not going to do them at all. How did I decide to not do them at all? Simply because they either don't relate to the goal, don't relate to the differentiator, or don't relate to the segment that I'm focusing on. So everything here, this is just automatically filtered to the segment, the differentiators, and the company goals. Cool? How do I know the P0s? Of course, here you will find the rationale. Those are the things that relate to the core differentiators. So things like the data sync optimization, making sure that the wearable actually automatically syncs and even in small increments correctly. The personalized workout plan, again, this is the core differentiator of the whole company. The content management system, because how else would they develop the content of the workout internally? And the push notification personalization, again, because this is part of the overall personalization experience. The second thing is monetization. Again, company goal. We need upsell flow. Right now, the company is bringing 0 revenue, so of course we need that. Third is related to reliability and scalability. There is no logging of any bug that's happening, so it's a nightmare. How else would we scale? It would be very high to scale it, and of course, we'd need significantly more resources that is not going to aid in the exponential growth. Lastly, but not least, is the expansion. We need to comply with the privacy and consent, the GDPR for Europe, and of course the multilingual UI. Cool. So literally, this is how I would even in real life do it. If we do just this, I would consider it a success. Everything else is secondary or just not gonna if we do it, it's not gonna be end of the world. If we do this, then it's actually gonna be the end of the world because we're not gonna get to our goal. Cool. Everything else is you can treat it as an optimization. So here, for example, you see that this is related to monetization, the live group sessions. Why am I mentioning this? because in the case it mentions that there is a high engagement in the group, in the live group sessions. So optimizing it, making sure that we build up and differentiate has the potential of monetizing it. Good. The other thing is again tech work, mostly about crash reporting, and lastly is the deep link, of course, because if we want to really scale, we need some marketing performance optimizations to happen in place. And P2 is things that are also can aid in the monetization, but we are uncertain about them. So the difference between this and the live group session is here we have some confidence that this actually works because there's already high engagement. It's just that it's not working well. There's a buffer. There's a latency issues that are happening. But here, those are just nice ideas. They relate to the differentiator. They relate to the segment. They can help in the monetization. But I'm placing them as P2 because there is a risk of uncertainty. We still need to do plenty of product work, even if they are actually could have high potential. So instead of the way I would think about it is instead of thinking about effort, I would think about certainty and risks. If it has high risk or mostly even uncertainty in the product discovery, this is when I wouldn't prioritize them. And also what you will notice here again is I really don't care about the effort. I only care about the impact and how relevant it is to the differentiator. Why am I saying this? Because effort can always be optimized or adjusted or rescoped. So even if the we look at this, for example, personalized workout recommendation engine. It feels like it's gonna be a massive work, and if I would look at the effort, I would rate it as 10 and will never prioritize it. But in real life, this isn't how we do it. The way we do it is this is important. This is a differentiator. It's very important to the user. I go to the engineers and we must figure out a way to do it. We might optimize in the effort and make it faster or make it simpler, but we still need to deliver on them. So this is why the effort is irrelevant in the way I think about it when on prioritizing. Cool. Now the last thing is we have team structures. How would I structure this? So since we have 2 squads, there's probably a clear split here. We need the core squad where we work on the core functionalities like the upsell, content management, the privacy and compliance issues, and so on. And then they are related to the personalization, that like a squad that works on the core differentiator of this company or this product. So again, things like personalized workout plans, push notifications, the live group sessions, and so on. So this is the split. And what you will notice here on the left, on the right, is this is the timeline, because in the company goals, it says that I want to double MAU and by Q1, by expand to Europe by Q4, and within 6 months we need to get some revenue. So this is what also dedicating the sort of prioritization in terms of timeline within even those who are like the P0 and the P1. Again, this is the first 6 months, monetize, then expand to Europe, then acquire more users. Now, this is where I'm not sure honestly if the AI would look at it, but in reality, when I would present this, this is going to have a pushback and also expectation. So especially from stakeholders and leadership expectations. So one of the most important parts is also to adjust the expectations of the stakeholders. So for example, we were talking about getting to 300,000 users. If I'm going to focus on the power users, there's no way we're going to get to 300,000. If anything, we're going to reduce the segment that we're the monthly active users from 150 to 15,000. But the goal becomes when we want to expand it, we want to expand to the 90, but the right 90,000 users. Again, like the average revenue per user. But of course, assuming that we were targeting the power users, those have much higher willingness to pay in these cases, and they also stick more because they have, again, the power users typically are, especially in the fitness aspect.
I'm gonna sorry to interrupt you because the 10 minutes has already passed. Any final thought that you wanna?
خلصنا. Thank you. That's it up.
Okay, how much time did you spend on it, just for the judges to know? Like the whole process of like.
Yani between reading to analyzing and writing, and maybe 2.5 hours to 3 hours, something like that.
3 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mahmoud.
Welcome.
Okay, we'll give it to Wasfi. The mic is yours.
All right. Hi, everyone. Lovely to meet you all. So in the next couple of minutes, when I say we, I'm referring to myself, ChatGPT, and Notion AI as a team. So to review again where the company stands as a phase right now, it's in the growth stage, and it's currently a free app. So as the business goals are aligned, we need to have a huge focus on doubling the monthly active users, expanding and unlocking the European market, achieving the 12 million annual recurring revenue, and improving the user retention. So what we did is we took the 27 initiatives and applied a customized version of the value versus effort methodology. So what we did is we took every initiative and we assigned it a value of high, medium, or low in terms of how directly it aligns with the business goals. Then we also worked with the simulated engineering team to also assign high, medium, or low value, estimated complexity and delivery time. And based on these two levers, we put each of the initiative into one of four quadrants. So quadrant number one was the quick wins, the high value and low effort initiatives. The next quadrant was the big bets. These were the high value and high effort initiatives, followed by balanced initiatives, which are medium value and medium effort. And finally, just a quadrant on its own for the low value initiatives. Why we picked that methodology over other methodologies is because at this stage in the company, we want to be as execution focused as possible. We want to remove all the noise, all the subjectivity from metrics and overcomplicated metrics like reach and impact and confidence. This methodology allows us to, number one, surface the quick wins very easily. Number two, it's a very visual and intuitive model that all the stakeholders can align against. And thirdly, we want to be focused on impact, basically. We want to be asking ourselves, instead of ranking thoughts or ranking ideas, we want to be asking ourselves, can we ship this fast and will it matter or not? So based on that, we basically broke the timeline into three distinct phases. We broke it into now, which is Q2 and Q3 2025. That phase, we put in the 8 initiatives that we see as the shortest path to business impact. So 4 key things we will see together here. Number one is kicking off the premium and monetized features to, first of all, increase retention and to justify monetization. Second, we focused on some low effort infrastructure work to boost platform reliability, stability, and retention in return. Number 3, we looked at boosting organic growth in the current market ahead of the European expansion. And fourth, we looked at closing the most critical feature gaps we have with competitors like Strava, like MyFitnessPal, and Nike Training Club. So we will see together that the first 4 out of 8 are 2 big bets and 2 quick wins. The core differentiator or the core value prop and the key for our premium tier, which are the personalized workout recommendation engine and the nutrition tracker. We hit with this, first of all, the differentiation and kicking off the monetization, and we are also closing some feature gaps with our competitors, followed by the 2 infrastructure pieces, which are the backend or error logging upgrade and the mobile app monitoring. Why I included these, or why we included these as third and fourth, is we don't want to just scale quickly, we want to scale responsibly. We want to make sure that we're proactively catching bugs, fixing them, we're quickly resolving any issues, and have very quick support escalation resolution. So in terms of squads, we can go in one of 2 paths here. Either go with 1 feature squad and 1 component squad. The feature squad starts immediately on the personalization features, while the component squad starts working on the infrastructure and platform reliability. Or if the engineering team sees fit, we can start on the 2 premium features side by side, each team working on one of these features. So following these two, personalization and nutrition tracker and the platform stability, we then, since we're going to have the monetizable features, we can start investing into the upsell flow to start increasing the average revenue per user. Following that, we can start working on another quick win, which is the push notification personalization to boost the activation and re-engagement. Seventh, we start working on the referral program automation to start boosting the organic growth in the US and Canada market ahead of the explosion in the European market. And you will see so far we have 2 big bets and 5 quick wins. The 8th one is a balanced initiative. And the rationale here is, even though this only hits only 10% of the user base, which are the power users, we see this as the most critical user segment we have. So even though it's just 10%, these power users are the most vocal and most influential in our user base. So satisfying them means better product perception. It means more word of mouth acquisition. And overall, they will help us with the necessary insight to make more data-informed decisions and retention mechanisms in the future. Following the now, we move into the next, which is Q4 and Q1 2026. And this phase is purely focused on scale and expansion. So the anchor here is the European expansion, which the first 3 initiatives are related to, followed by internal tools and social engagement features. So you will see that the top 3 initiatives here are purely dedicated to the European expansion, which are the UI localization, the privacy and consent UI to comply with the GDPR legal requirements, and the nutrition DB localization to cater for the different regions within Europe. Following that, we start working on cohort retention analysis to start taking more informed retention strategies. Then we look at the 2 medium effort social engagement features, looking at the community leaderboard and custom challenge creation to promote sticky behavior and boost social engagement and build and deepen the user engagement over time. Following that, we look at CMS, building a CMS for fitness programs to start shipping and publishing more and more workout programs. And hand in hand with that, more programs equals more videos. And we should also invest in adaptive video streaming to make sure that we have a smooth playback experience across the different regions. And finally, even though it's a low value against the business impact, we will give some love to our finance team and empower them with dashboards to enable tracking the annual recurring revenue, the CAC, and the monetization metrics. So with that, we hit all of the business goals, and we parked some initiatives in the later phase post Q1. And this phase is basically dedicated to all the experimental and non-core features that don't have direct alignment with the business goals. And even though they can be considered as long-term valuable bets, they are not worth the time or effort at the moment due to how, first of all, complicated or niche use case or unvalidated use cases in general. So over time, until we reach Q1, other features will come up, other initiatives will come up that directly tie into, and more informed decisions will tie into our business goals. But let's consider these as parked initiatives to consider when we have the capacity to start exploring new or experimental verticals. And that is it.
Thank you, Wasfi. Same question, how much time?
Funny enough, it took me more than it took Mahmoud. It took me around 4.8 hours due to how much I had back and forth with ChatGPT and challenging it on some decisions and refining just the whole part of formatting the markdown for Notion was a pain, because every time I ask it to change something, it changes it and other things while it's at it. So I need to find what it changed. It was a bit of a pain, but it was a fun experience.
Interesting. Thank you, Wasfi. All right, we'll give it to Ihab, and then inshallah we'll get to our judges after.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you, Wasfi. Thank you, Hamuri. Any very insightful approaches. Well, I think that's why we picked experts in their domain. Prioritization isn't usually something done by juniors or mid-levels, more of seniors and leaders. And it's very interesting to see different approaches. The thing about it is we're never going to know who's right, and that's not the intention until we execute and learn from this. The intention is to see different approaches and to see how we could improve our own game in terms of making decisions. Let me share my screen and show you my own approach and a quick overview of Station and how I was using that to help me. So first, I added the company details and the context, what the company does, the industry, its stage. Next, I inserted the goals that we had and added the different personas, whether internal stakeholders or different user segments, and identified each of their core needs. So, for example, a busy parent here would have short duration routines, easy meal prep recipes, and offline access, and so on for the rest. And added the feedback as well. And finally, the initiatives that would be prioritized. I started here by adding a new list. I'm in a different workspace just to show you what it looks like empty. And I selected everything that I wanted. I think it's not here because there's nothing, but you get the point. And finally, we get to the actual list. It shows the entire input as well as the prioritized list. Let's start first by the rationale itself and the direction it took. So why we're focusing on things first, and we want to double the monthly active users. We want to get to $12 million in revenue, and we want to expand internationally. And we are prioritizing viral growth mechanisms, basically, and using that as a foundation to monetize over giving more advanced features. And the impact would that be to enable us to expand to Europe and convert the more premium users to increase our revenue or to actually start having revenue. It mentions here some explicit trade-offs that were done. So for example, there's a feature for the referral program automation versus some advanced AI recommendations, for example. And the ROI comparison for that is that we're able to increase the number of acquired users by 10x approximately, and versus without the referral program. And this would help us increase the number of users. And that would have a compound effect in terms of daily growth. Once new users start inviting also their friends, this would have a compound effect on us, and it would lower our customer acquisition cost, or at least keep it the same. And how this was calculated was benchmarking against specific fitness apps and the viral coefficient that they had, which was 1.2 to 1.5x the number of users when a referral program was introduced. And this started taking effect in 4 weeks only after implementation versus over 3 months to start actually seeing the effect of AI. Another feature that was prioritized, which is the push notifications, which is mostly personalizing and reminding the users to use the app over the live stream. Although the live stream had engagement to it, the impact of the notifications is on 100% of the user base. And this would remind users to keep on sticking to the app, and would also in turn support the goal of reducing the churn and increase the value of the retained users versus getting money from the streamers only. The focus was on the casual fitness enthusiasts and the beginner seekers, because these people actually need more guidance rather than just frequently using the app. They know that they need guidance, and the way to do this is focusing on personalization, and the notifications would directly affect that. We also see that, this is what I was just mentioning, that 45% of the user base have potential to convert, which is the beginners and the casual seekers. And this would enable us to get closer to the $12 million of annual revenue. Dependencies also were considered for that. So there's a foundation layer, which is, as mentioned, the mobile app monitoring is an enabler. It's very important and a critical thing to have an overview of the performance of the app, any crashes, any bugs that occur. And there's also the growth rate layer, which is the referrals and the notifications. And what else? There's some financial analysis. These were some assumptions that were made based on industry benchmarks and how much it costs to acquire users versus how much they would convert into actually paid users. There's also the virality coefficient, as mentioned. And there's another risk assessment, which is there might be a probability to delay the actual expansion to Europe because of approvals and GDPR compliance and all of that. And this means that any features that related to this somehow would get deprioritized eventually until these things were sorted out. Also, the advanced analytics, like having dashboards for retention cohorts, for finance, these have impact on the operations, but they don't have a direct impact on the goals that we had. So they were somewhat deprioritized. There's also an alignment to the vision as explained, but I'm not going to bore you with all the details here. It's just basically a summary of how we got to this list. And the first thing that was prioritized, which is the push notifications engine, as we mentioned, it has a medium effort. These scores seem a bit arbitrary, but we're trying to showcase more in depth of how we came to those numbers without giving away also our secret sauce. So we give this justification. As mentioned, there's 20% of beginners and 25% of casual enthusiasts that are interested in this, and it gives a strategic value. It's beyond engagement, and it creates an intervention if they're going to churn, and it breaks the cycle, reminding them to use the app itself. And accordingly, also with planning to expand the user base and increasing the revenue is the referral program, localizing the nutrition database, as there was some feedback related to this, and also the tiered subscription, as mentioned, because the app is not monetized at the moment. So we needed to create the engine from scratch and create different subscription tiers. Why it ranked below the initiatives from 1 to 3 is because users are attempting to churn, and we need to start increasing the user base first before we start to monetize them. Then came the nutrition-related features, which I skipped this. We prioritized the app monitoring also because it has low effort and a high return in terms of visibility over the bugs and the crashes that might occur within the app. Then came the personalization, which is having workouts tailored to each specific user and recommending it based on their needs. This requires some sort of high effort. That's why it got a bit lower in terms of priority. And we could see here which personas are affected by this and the related goals that it supports, which is improving retention and doubling the monthly active users. we see some feedback here that's related to it, which is beta testers mentioned that the workout plan feels generic and they'd like something more personalized to them. We could also see this justification in order to get the buy-in of the stakeholders easily. We explained to them why we came to this conclusion, and this doesn't necessarily need to mean that this is always going to be right. Something that's very important with AI especially, it's that garbage in, garbage out, and it depends on the quality of the writing. For simplicity in this case, we had very short descriptions of what we actually needed to do. And I believe this affected somehow the prioritization. For example, in my opinion, something that was assumed here for the adaptive video streaming for content is that it assumed that we're going to work on this from scratch, although there are options to be done. So we needed to explicitly mention that we might use some services like Vimeo or YouTube just to do the streaming, but it referred to the industry standard, which is what most apps do, is that they develop their own streaming algorithm, and that's why this got deprioritized at the bottom of the list, although it had high engagement.
Hamad, if I might cut you off as well. 10 minutes is almost done. So how much time also for Zayshin to input all of this and to give you the priority lists?
So the actual list took 5 minutes to analyze, and I took like an additional 5 to 10 minutes to insert the data within Zayshin platform.
Fine. Great. All right, I think we're gonna dive deep one by one because for the judges to have a better look. So maybe we can, I don't know, you can start with Mahmoud, Wasfi, or Ihab. Up to you guys. Yani, the floor is yours, judges. Tambi, Ahmed, and Ashraf.
Hello, thank you, Ibrahim. I would leave it to Ahmed since he has the judge hat on. Start.
I was about to say, like, I leave it to you, but let me start with thinking. So as we said, like, with this show case, we're not here to judge which one is the best. What it got to my mind, to be honest, like thinking of the three cases. The first one, let's start with Mahmoud. Mahmoud did the showcase by himself, which means that he's a human versus a human. So he wants to understand the entire business case, analyze it, and based on the goals, he came up with the conclusion, which is fine. Like before the AI era, we used to do this the same, adding the expertise and the frameworks and everything, and we come up with the final conclusion of the prioritization list. On the second case, which is with Wasfi, Wasfi was communicating with an AI model, which is ChatGPT or whatsoever. The issue here, or not, I'm not going to say the issue. The advantage here is he used the knowledge that he has, and he started back and forth with the prompt until he got the answers. And this is what we do, and this is highly recommended to spend the quality time on the prompting side. I mean, let's start with the showcase itself. When you have a proper, as Muhammad Ihab said, garbage in, garbage out. If you have a proper showcase and you are aligned in the company, what's the objective and what are the initiatives, then you can start with the next phase, which is spending like quality time of prompting. What do you want to come up with? You might have a zero shot if you have like a really good prompt, or maybe back and forth until you get the result, which is fine, even if it's gonna take time. The ultimate goal is to get the list somehow accurately. What I liked with what Zayshin is doing, the way I think of it is thinking of multiple agents inside this platform. Each one understands a part of the equation. Like we have the feedback, we have the goals, we have everything separated on each tab. The way I think of it, maybe it's not the same, but this is how I thought of it. Interacting with each others, like multiple employees or with high IQ, I would say, interacting with each others understands what they need to do and come up with the solution right away. So this is my takeaway of the three cases that I saw as of now.
If you guys want to see the list again, or if you want to challenge any of the guys, also we're happy to hear your thoughts. We can hear from you if you have anything. Also, Tambi and Ashraf, if you want to say something.
Yeah, يعني, can I share my thoughts? No?
Please.
Yeah. So thank you guys for doing the amazing work. طبعا يعني محمد وصفي محمود sorry Muhammad and Ihab. I think with the manual, I think that was it felt the most thoughtful, but I don't know if it's also because it's a human that is doing it purely, but it felt like it is the most approach at being empathetic, at looking at it from a human level rather than purely scientific, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It depends on your product. I believe it wasn't tied a lot to timing, like quarters and planning the roadmap ahead. It was more like immediate needs today, which also feels like it's tied to the human element where we need to get things done and not scientifically or not long-term thinking. On the AI side, I like that they focused. I don't know if that idea came from Wasfi or from GPT, just to focus on the influence of users, where you didn't treat all the users equally, but you thought that because this would actually increase the maybe virality factor, because influential users will most probably increase that number. So I liked how you did that, and I'm curious, did you come up with it, or was it made by the AI? But also because it's AI, it focused on the roadmap quarters, and I didn't even understand why we planned a quarter, but we said it's not important, we're not going to work on it, which was maybe Q1 26. I'm not sure. I forgot the exact. So that also seemed like something that an AI would do, but Hamouri didn't, for example, because as a human, he just thought about it. Why should I mention it? I'm assuming, of course. And on Zacian, of course, time beats a lot, which I'll keep that. And it was the shortest time, 15 minutes, which on the long term, I don't think you do prioritization that often, but I think it also allows something that Awaja mentioned, which is agents and having this as a running process all the time instead of doing it one shot at some point, because it's cheaper and you can do it multiple times because it's fast. Then it might be something that allows you to test out different scenarios and model it. Like, okay, if we go with scenario, what will most probably happen? I liked the explainability. I thought it just makes sense because the agents or the software is doing that, so there's more explainability. I'm sure Hamouri would explain it, but as a human, he didn't have the time to do it, right? Or yeah, it's just easier as a machine. And scenario modeling is what I thought about. Those are my thoughts. Thank you, guys.
These are great. Thank you, Tambi. But Wasfi to answer the question if you want.
Yeah, sure. So on including the power user feature in the now, to be honest, like the AI put it there, and then when I challenged it, like why aren't you putting a quick win in the now and putting a balanced one instead? It then gave me this justification because it ties to the power users, and these are the most vocal, influential, and so on. So that was, to be honest, with the help of AI. On the quarters piece, the time frame, it was post Q1. It wasn't Q1, it was post Q1. So let's review again after Q1, where we hit our deadlines with the European expansion, the monthly active users, and so on. So let's say it was a parked section. If more important initiatives came up, we prioritize them. If not, we have a section of parked initiatives that we can take from.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wasfi. Ashraf. Ashraf, are you in US? Sorry for waking you up maybe
Yeah,
early.
good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, great seeing you all again. Thank you for inviting me. This is amazing. I love it. Jumping from pre-revenue to 12 million revenue is absolutely crazy without heavy experimentation. So I'm not sure about that. If you can just like put it in a roadmap and you know, I like my opinion on this is that I would take the story from Mahmoud, from Hamouri. It's very compelling. It's very. I love the focus there. I love the like how he removed the distractions, like all of the distractions from the face of this because I feel LLMs usually tend to be agreeable. So it's very hard, like for an LLM to push back on things, like to tell you, look, no, this doesn't make sense. I don't want to like deal with this thing, like it's hard for LLMs to do that today, at least. So I would take the story and the focus from Hamouri. I would take the analysis and the detailed analytical approach from Wasfi, and I would take the speed from Zayshin. That's how I think about it. And in order to do that, I think Zayshin needs to have some human in the loop. So, I mean, and on the UI, I didn't see any like control for product managers. So I feel it needs to combine all approaches together in order to actually align, a compelling story with some analysis and the speed of AI. So this is simply how I think about it.
Leave it to Hamouri again, and Ihab and Wasfi. Do you guys want to talk about something, explain something, defend something? I don't know. You have anything in mind? And also, you can comment on each other's as well, if you wanted to. Go ahead, Wasfi.
So I want to comment on the agreeability part. So I think it comes down to prompting and setting the tone from the beginning. So at the start, I told ChatGPT, even though it's agreeable, please challenge me, please ask me questions, basically act as if you're the judge. And we're going to do it both ways. I'm going to act as the judge sometimes and question your decisions. You act as the judge sometimes and question my decisions. So I think with some smart use of prompting, we can just make sure that ChatGPT can be a bit of a pain if we wanted to.
But Wasfi, since you spoke, do you want to talk anything about Hamouri's approach or Ihab approach, or any comments or anything that you want to talk to the judges or highlight?
So on Zayshin, I agree with Ashraf, just bringing in a tiny element of back and forth or a tiny element of dialogue-like situation with Zayshin, because to me, it felt like here's all the input and then Zayshin gave me the output without much room for negotiation, without much room for challenging. So considering a human or dialogue-like element of it, I see would go a long way. With Hamouri, I'm impressed with how like he did his part half the time that I use with ChatGPT. I like the part of removing distractions. I like his methodology overall. Just concerned about just basically illustrating and coming up with these decisions and this logic with stakeholders and leadership and so on. I would foresee a kind of a pushback, like what is the data behind this? Where are the analytics behind this? Again, I'm biased towards my ChatGPT approach, where it is very, very less empathetic and more data-driven. And given that I worked a lot with leadership teams and CEOs and so on, it's kind of hard to convince them just with I'm not sure to put it like with feelings. We feel that this is the best thing to do right now. I think there should be an element of data to back up our decisions. That's just my humble thought.
I have a question, Wasfi. I'm just curious to know which model have you used on ChatGPT?
4.0.
Okay. Because maybe like if you want to give it another try, since you have the prompt, just try to give it another try with all three, because it has more reasoning. So it might give you like a shortcut. It understands more maybe. Because all four is giving like fast answers without like thinking, let's say. But if you put some sort of a brain to it, maybe it will give like even more a better output. I'm not sure. Like I'm just like thinking of it.
I'll check it out. Thanks, Ahmed.
Thanks, Ahmed. طيب حموري.
Yeah. Well, honestly, everything that's going in my head right now is what could be like the future power ups of product manager. And now that I'm observing like our conversation, I think in reality there are fights that need to happen. Right? So I imagine a world where, as Ashraf said, the AI would tell you, man, 12 million in 6 months, no way. Like go fight for this. Go make a fight with this person, fight with this person. This is what the realistic approach would look like. Another thing is, if we are thinking about strategy, like 3 hours, even honestly, a week is nothing compared like to the amount of effort and investment you're gonna make. So I don't think time is the reason is a factor. As much as maybe what Tam mentioned is now I'm thinking like if there's some scenario simulation that happened, like if you take that strategy, this is the market, those are the market dynamics, this is what's probably gonna happen. Those are what our competitors doing. This is where your specific niche is coming. Those are the users trends currently happening. Maybe those are the kind of technologies that will ease your life if you take that direction. So I think those sort of things are extremely hard on a strategy level, and this is where like I would think of like a product power up that can happen. But on the specific prioritization, like the only scenario I would think of it being useful is only on the maybe bugs and small features and enhancements. Like the things that as a product manager, I don't want to waste my time on. I want to work on the high impact and high leverage things. And the small things that keep distracting me on Slack and everyone nudging me to prioritize, I wish I can just outsource it to an AI to do it for the engineers and do all the things needed. So this is where my head is happening.
But if you may answer, just to surface back, what's this question? If you were been challenged by the stakeholders to give some like context data and feedbacks and blah blah blah, what you will do in your scenario?
Yeah, I would give you the context and answer. Like what?
But I mean, with what you will back it up? That's the question. Like, what kind of data are you backing it up with?
90% it's the strategy and focus, to be honest. Like, how is it relevant to our goals and our differentiator in the market? 90%, and maybe only if needed, maybe data.
Speaking of data, I think it would be, I love the idea that there is feedback on Zation, because sometimes you just like overlook feedback or just forget it in the conversation. So now I'm thinking like, would it be useful if, for example, it connects to like some data sources as well and reads like analytics about users or more behavioral things maybe?
Yeah, that's about to be launched very soon. So initially it was a closed loop system, but we're integrating lots of products that would enable you to import everything there and just have it, like Tanbi said, analyze everything in a continuous manner. Another thing that you've mentioned, which is very interesting, is the human element. And this is where the writing quality comes in. Whenever you feel that something doesn't make sense, you have to go back and forth with the chat. Here, you just have to add more info that would fix it. Much like what I mentioned, the streaming service, it assumed that we're going to build it from scratch. And if I just added more info and rerun the priorities, and it will come up with something much different. I really like the approach of Hamuri and being very pragmatic, very clear about things to do now, next, later, or even never. I like how Wasfi was very structured and very detailed, mapping everything into matrices, what has high value, high impact. And the thing is, you have to go back and forth with the prompts. And this is the challenge. definitely the human element matters. And what we're focusing on here is the speed to make decision, because this would also enable us to increase our leverage in terms of market competitiveness and lower the opportunity cost, because time does matter. And that's what we're going for. We run the different simulations, we do the heavy lifting, even for engineering tasks, for business impact. And it's not meant to replace a product manager. You need definitely humans still to overlook this. We're not replaceable, at least at this point. But it all comes down to how much we spend properly on discovery and what's the quality of the inputs that we give. What Zation does is doing the heavy lifting in terms of prompting. You just input the right data and it does the heavy lifting for you in the shortest period of time. And even with the integrations, it's going to be much faster.
Yeah, I'm curious what would happen if we put Zation in an environment that doesn't have product managers like Active Pieces at our company. So maybe we can give it a try and see how it works out.
We could discuss this separately.
And I want to come again to the judges if you guys have any also additional comments.
I do, honestly. I do have some feature requests. And if you bring a product person, we will give our opinion. I think that's
happy to hear.
So, yeah, I feel that I know that prioritization is key, but I would still, at this point in time, maybe give Hamouri superpowers or Wasfi rather than try to replace that prioritization thing that they do. Yeah, maybe help them do that much faster by actually create that, scenario modeling, clustering of user feedback, and tying that user feedback to initiatives, not only as related, but also trying to give those personas more life. Like when you give that initiative, it has, maybe you can generate images. But by the way, you can generate images, actually create those personas, make the UX look something that they would use as a dashboard while prioritization. Maybe create a dependency map. So I noticed a lot of initiatives are dependent. Sometimes that, like, okay, should I put this before that? If I actually remove this one, the other one will also fall because they are dependent. I think that's not clear. Even the objectives, by the way, any retention and growing, they're the inverse. And if you increase it, reduce churn, retention would increase, growth could increase. So that type of dependency and simulation of when the delivery of the value will be available, which is my last thought that came to mind. Real-world events, by the way, prioritization happens, but in a vacuum, and then you put that plan, and then a month later, OpenAI releases something or Active Pieces releases something. They destroy your goals that you put a month. So how can we keep that validation happening through news feeds? I don't know. I'm just thinking about how prioritization might change. And although you helped me a month ago, but if you were an observability layer on top of product and business in a market, you know what I mean? I'm trying to think of it larger. It's not only you would be more valuable to me as Zation or to the startups. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
That reminds me. Sorry, for interrupting you. That reminds me of how we, for example, at Active Pieces, we need to keep up with like new AI models and release like new features according to what is like happening in the AI market. So we need to keep up, and sometimes product managers don't see the market as well. Like I mean, they have to see it, but because it's like super fast and changing every day, it's very hard to see like every single model that is released, every single new feature that is. Yeah.
Yes, this is exactly what we're trying to do. Again, it's not the objective to replace product managers. It's a way to help us make decisions better. It's augmenting their actual powers, like you were mentioning, Tanvi. And part of that is what you just mentioned. Maybe it's not clear explicitly as you just said it, but I'm not sure if this would relate somehow to what you were saying, something like tying goals to the actual initiatives that we were working on, seeing how many initiatives were impacting them, the actual personas served, and also seeing the percentage of high versus low initiative, high versus low impact initiatives. On top of that, we also do the dependencies amongst items. And if you want to rerun the simulation, then you could just create a new list with the new data and you'd see the result. So everything is dynamic in the sense of you see versions for a snapshot in time. If this is the case, then this is the result. And if I want to change something, I would get different results based on that.
It is, but again, I'm just like ask a feature request. If you just show me as part of the dashboard, top 3 people, an image of Ashraf, an image of Ahmed, and Hamouri, just take with them, and Ashraf under it is like biggest request. Like Ashraf is like, if you do this for me today, I will talk about it, and Ashraf would have a influence his score, for example, because if Ashraf talked about it on LinkedIn, most probably everyone will listen and it will help the other metrics, versus Tambi has less people, for example. Yani, those kind of different UXs, rather than clustering and showing.
This is actually very useful. We do this internally, but it's not shown. So we could show it.
Yeah, yani, give us your secret sauce. Make
We'll
us
do that.
use it, is what I would say.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you, Tambi. Okay, we go back. Ashraf and Ahmed, do you guys have any final comments? And then we can open up a little bit for the attendees. Any final comment, Ashraf? Khawaja? No?
I'm good.
I'm
Okay.
good.
طيب حموري وصفي إيهاب any final comments from you guys? Okay, good. طيب there was a question, maybe not related but somewhat related. Can you guys suggest some AI tools for advanced data and business analysis? And if you guys heard of or used any, this could be an open question to anyone who know or have used before.
My answer is biased, so I'm not going to speak.
Ashraf, you're about to say.
It depends on what kind of analysis is needed, right? So, what is the goal? I don't know.
But
I personally didn't want to overwhelm myself with like taking another 2 hours to decide which tool to use. So I just went with the obvious first choice, ChatGPT, and it did the job for me at least. I hope you can agree.
If I may also, comment something that I felt that Mahmoud's approach is specific to Mahmoud, right? So if we bring another human, then his will bring his own approach. While the AI one trying to level up whatever you guys are doing, there's our frameworks, there are input, there's our feedback, and there are output, and then your own judgment of it, right? But for Mahmoud, he has like his own style. If we bring XYZ, he will bring his own style, and etc. etc. So that I felt is like different, right? Here's where AI could be helpful.
That's different, but is it different in a good or a bad way? I mean, I think successful products need leaders, right?
True, but how many of Mahmouds are in the world? If you think,
but how
like
many
Mahmoud
successful products are in the world? Versus unsuccessful.
But I mean, it doesn't say that also Wasfi's approach or Ihab's approach is not. You know what I mean? Like, or like Hamouri with an AI or Wasfi with an AI. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to say is somewhat it's kind of try to level up the field if you having a machine somewhat helping you rather than you exactly like you're using your own brain and just trying with it. So that was like my one assumption. And the other point that I wanted to point out that if Ihab can share some stuff about it, is because we talked before. He said that he used Zation to build Zation. So I'm interested to see how does that work. How did it work for you? Like if you tell us a little bit.
So something interesting was I was targeting enterprises, and this meant that I needed to have enterprise features like single sign-on, like team management. And when I ran this over Zation, it prioritized totally different things, which was a surprise to me. But it made sense because teams would love to get some sort of sense what AI could help them, even without collaboration, and collaboration could come in later. So this is how it affected something while we were building the MVP, for example.
Amazing, great. طيب, I'll leave it if you guys have any attendees, if you guys have any also comments, suggestion, question. Do you agree, do not agree? I'd love to hear from you. We have a couple of minutes. And also we have Ihab has an offer as well. We don't want to forget that, or like a special offer, let's say, for people who attended. We can talk about that as well. Okay, just a small suggestion. I wonder to share the use case with us prior to the session would have given us the chance to keep up with the approaches better. Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Hassan. Thank you. All right, maybe we can talk a little bit, Ihab, about the offer, and then we can wrap up. I enjoyed it really much. It was like a brain kind of like, I don't know, teaser, or it was enjoyable. It was really nice. And thank you everyone for the efforts and the time.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it, to be honest.
Yeah, but next time we need the fight and winners and losers.
Sure.
Okay, so we had an exclusive offer that Ibrahim insisted on, is that we doubled the quota for all the attendees and gave them a 50% discount for the next 6 months, I'm sorry. And this offer is valid until the end of this week or the upcoming week. And you could just sign up at Zation.ai and we'll send you over the invitation to this custom product folks. Bye.
Thank you.
All right. This has been great. I want to thank again Tambi, Ashraf, Ahmed, Wasfi, Hamouri, and Ihab. It was really a great 2 hours. I enjoyed it personally so much, and hopefully more to come, inshallah, with you guys and product folks.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It was a lovely experience. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right.